Hey everybody, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to what we're calling CR Privacy Hour. Now, we've never quite done anything like this before. We're live streaming across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm Elliot Weiler, a digital editor here at Consumer Reports. I'll be with you for the next hour. Use the hashtag CR Privacy Hour. We want you to be part of this conversation. Share your questions, share your comments. We'll be talking privacy throughout the next hour or so, and we want you to participate because we know you have a lot of questions and comments because we all live in this connected world, and privacy is very important to us here at Consumer Reports, and we know it's important to you as well. Now, you're watching this online, so that obviously means that you are a connected person, and you probably have devices all across your house, throughout your life, that in some way connect to the internet. Tonight we'll look at a few of them and the potential vulnerabilities that come along with those items. From cars to toys to TVs in particular, there are some privacy trade-offs that we all need to be aware of, and we'll walk you through some of those tonight. Again, we want you to be part of this. This is for you. It is a community conversation. The hashtag CR Privacy Hour. We even have a social center set up here in our TV testing lab studio. Kevin Winterfield and Laura Murphy will be monitoring our social feeds and sharing your comments throughout the night from Social Center. Thanks, guys. I'm sure you're already hard at work there getting some great comments. We look forward to hearing what people are saying. But first, we want to begin by sharing what is, by all accounts, a downright creepy experience. Consumer Reports uncovered this recently during some specialized testing of smart TVs. Take a look.
Imagine this. You're in your living room watching your favorite program, and suddenly you lose control of your TV. It's like it's possessed. Now, while your smart TV may not be pulling a complete poltergeist, some pretty creepy things can happen if it gets hacked. Consumer Reports has found millions of smart TVs that can be controlled by hackers, exploiting easy-to-find vulnerabilities. These are sets that connect to the internet for streaming services such as Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube. In our labs, we demonstrated a relatively unsophisticated hacker could change your channels, crank up the volume,
one of the main suspects in the investigation of
play unwanted content,
No, this is major.
even access your settings and kick the TV completely off the Wi-Fi network. If this happened to you without your knowing what's happening, it would be disturbing, as though an intruder were lurking inside your home, playing a sick joke on you.
What we've seen so far is that it just allows the hacker to cause mischief. We haven't seen the ability for the hacker to take information about you or to spy on you with this vulnerability. But it does beg the question, if this is open, what else could there be?
The problems we found affect Samsung televisions along with models made by TCL and other brands that use the Roku Smart TV platform. When CR reached out to Samsung and Roku, both companies said they take privacy and security seriously. TCL referred us to Roku's response.
As we said, kind of creepy and weird, right? Now the question is, what exactly was going on with those TV sets? Well, here to explain what you just saw there, Maria Rarasich, Director of Electronics Testing here at Consumer Reports, along with Justin Brookman, Director of Privacy and Technology for Consumers Union, and that is the policy arm for Consumer Reports. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate your time here. Maria, you kind of spearheaded this effort here. We saw in the video there, we used an example of poltergeist, kind of taking over the TV. And while that might be a bit of a stretch, it's not all that far off. So walk us through what we saw there. What happened?
Sure, so here's the scenario. So you're in your living room, you're watching TV. Somebody else in your house opens up an app on their smartphone, maybe it's a game app that they downloaded, or they're on their laptop and they open up the browser and they click a link to a website. Now they don't know it, but that app or that website is running malicious code that a hacker who could be anywhere in the world has written and placed on that app or in that website. This code can look and determine if you have a Samsung or Roku TV in your house, and then if it finds that, it can start sending remote control commands to it. So you're sitting watching your TV, and all of a sudden, it's acting as if somebody is sending remote control commands to it. It can change the channel, it can do searches, it can do all sorts of things. So it's a little startling, a bit creepy, as you said. It looks like it has a life of its own at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy the way it just like literally took over the TV going through that search menu,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
when you were looking for this and these vulnerabilities were found there, do they permeate beyond the smart interface of TV, or I guess what I'm saying is, do you need that smart TV for this to happen? It's the connectivity that
Yes.
allows this to happen.
Yeah, because
right?
it's happening. What's happening is that malicious code, which is on that, say, that app, that smartphone that we were talking about, or on that laptop, on that browser website, is giving those remote control commands over the Wi-Fi. That's how it's talking to the TV.
And smart TVs are perhaps not as secure as other devices. Think about a TV, right? Years ago, it was just plug it in, then maybe you got cable or satellite, you plug that in with an HDMI, but these TVs are connecting to the internet, which creates a whole new set of problems as we're finding out here. As people are watching this tonight, and we're going to go through tips throughout, what should they be thinking about these connected TVs? What are the trade-offs when you have a smart TV?
Yeah, I mean, so there's obviously a lot of benefits from smart TVs. I mean, you get a chance to watch Netflix on Amazon. So, I mean, we're not telling people to not connect. But I think a lot of people might not expect potential security vulnerabilities.
Right.
Big problem in the Internet of Things in general. Whenever you connect something to the Internet, it's definitely a potential to be hacked. Smart TV is actually probably not the worst offender. I mean, we got some security updates, so
Right.
Not so bad. And then for me, the privacy side, I think a lot of people don't expect that the smart TV manufacturer is going to actually be watching what you're watching. So the TVs that we all looked at. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, so talk more about that, because I don't think people would ever think of their TV watching them. Many of them don't have cameras built in. So what do you mean when you say your TV could be watching you?
Yep, totally. So the 5 TVs that we looked at in the lab, they're all configured to take little screenshots of what you're watching every few seconds and then send it back to the manufacturer. And then they would say, oh, they're watching season 2, episode 4 of The Good Place. They're watching a basketball game. And they do this constantly. And so based on that, they can generate a pretty detailed profile of all the things you do, not just when you're watching cable, but also potentially when you're watching apps.
And as the user, I would have no way of knowing that that's happening.
Yeah, so we looked at when you set them up, they all said a little something about it during the menus. Some of them were more clear, some of them were less clear. A few years ago, the Federal Trade Commission said, looking at this very issue, people don't expect their TVs to be doing that. It's kind of surprising if it's all being collected. So they need to get your permission before they do that. And so we looked at them all, and they do get something resembling permission. Some of them you click agree to a kind of long policy. Some of them throw up like a window saying viewing information services. Do we know what that means?
Right.
So they all kind of did something, so you have to press OK. But I think it's certainly understandable if you get this TV on Christmas morning, open it up, trying to fly through and get it set up, that you wouldn't necessarily notice what you're agreeing to. They're not. A lot of times they didn't seem designed to convey information so much as get you to click OK.
Okay,
Right.
I want to talk more about what goes on in those menus and what people can turn on and turn off if this is particularly bothersome for you. But as we mentioned, we do have our social team out there. We're getting some questions already from people who are joining us. So let's check in with Laura Murphy. Laura, what are you hearing from people there who are joining us via social media?
Thanks, Elliot. Well, we've got a question here from Lynn on Facebook. She's wondering if we know yet if it's only these TVs that CR studied, and what about TVs that use, sticks? Certain brands have a stick you can put in the side. Are those a security threat?
That's a great question. Maria, you can maybe talk more about the testing and what we
Right.
looked at and what we found.
Right, so we looked at several TVs, and as we said, we saw this on a Roku TV, but also a Roku Ultra, a Roku streaming stick, so it was also in the sticks as well. We didn't see if we found it on the TVs we found it on. It doesn't mean it is or isn't on other TVs. The mechanism that lets us do this sort of hack is related to being able to have a remote control app on your smartphone. It's that type of an interface that we are able to get into. So we cannot say that we can or can't do it on other type of TVs. We did see it on Samsung and on Roku devices.
And what have Samsung and Roku told us about the findings?
Yeah, so we contacted both of them and had discussions with both of them. Samsung said that they are investigating in order to confirm and correct it. Roku says that it is not a security risk, and they pointed out that it can be prevented, the hack can be prevented by setting a setting called external control. So we went and we looked for that setting, we set it to disable, which is what they said to do, and it does prevent the hack from happening. However, if you use a third-party, if you use a Roku app on your phone to control the TV, or a third-party app on your phone to control the TV, it will disable that functionality also.
That's kind of what I was getting to before we got that question from social media. So there are things that people can do in terms of turning off certain things that might make their smart TV smart. there are trade-offs though, right? And maybe you bought the smart TV to do something that you really like, but if you turn a feature off, you're not going to have that anymore. So I know you both would advocate turning off something called ACR. Can you explain what that is, and when I do that, what do I gain, what do I lose?
So ACR is what I was describing about how it takes a little snippet from your TV every few seconds and sends it back home. It stands for automated content recognition. You can turn that off on all the devices without losing a lot of the core functionality. You can do the main things you want to do: watch TV, connect to apps, watch apps. They don't, but and you have to agree to something during setup. So when you're setting something up, maybe keep an eye out for something, and you don't usually call it ACR. Sometimes they call it viewing data, viewing information. Right. Sometimes they call it out that they want to use it for advertising. So you can make sure you don't turn it on in the beginning. They also, all the TVs we looked at did have settings where you can go in and try to find it and disable it. They weren't always intuitive. I mean, they didn't have dedicated. Most of them didn't have dedicated privacy places. You had to go to help, admin, support, /
Right, and there's strange places in the menus and sometimes several menus down, but you can get to them basically after you've done that initial setup in case you go, oh, geez, I didn't see that. Let me go take a look again. You can go through the menus and find these kinds of settings.
Yeah, and for the 5 TVs, we actually we found out what the map menu paths were, and I think we put it into the social media stream. It's definitely on the article that we did that was released this morning.
Great, so people can, if they have one of the brands, they can follow along at home.
Yep.
Okay, great. Again, we're hearing more from social media, so let's take another question right now. Kevin, you have one?
Yes, Elliot, we have a lot of good questions and comments coming in. This one is particularly interesting from Max on Facebook. He says he just got a new TV today, and although he didn't want to enable any of the options that allowed it to collect information, he had to log into this account in order to get the TV to load a particular app. And in that case, that app actually goes to his own content on his home storage. He thought that was especially galling. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, you have to log into various apps to get. I mean, a lot of times the TVs do make you sign into an app in a way that I think is not necessary. So that's possibly what was going on there. Not having seen it, I don't quite know exactly how to.
Right. I know some of the TVs, as you're setting them up, they ask for you to have an account at the manufacturer account. You don't always have to do that. You can sometimes just skip it. It depends on what you're looking for. What we would hope is that it's clear enough, and I think it needs to be clearer in many cases. The manufacturers, if they can tell you what you're trying to sign up for, you can then decide whether you want to do it or not. But I do know on some TVs you can skip those steps and still, run the TV.
So the skip's kind of hidden up in the corner.
It depends on where you're at, but yeah, it depends which one.
So I think we're fairly comfortable, using laptops and mobile phones to sign up, and those are, I guess, relatively safe in our lives. So if I want to go full bore and kind of use my smart TV and give the information for these apps, is the connection between that remote control, to the home server, is that encrypted and secure, or are there potential vulnerabilities just using those routine apps that are built into my smart TV? Do I have any way of knowing that is secure?
So part of the testing that we did look at the traffic coming off the TV over the Wi-Fi. Everything we saw was encrypted. We believe that's fairly safe. It's just a question of, there are these vulnerabilities that happen, and there's ways in sometimes when, like the hack we found. One thing that is very important that people should do is make sure that they're updating their software. These TVs all send down updates, and it's all very important to keep that updated. Many of them have a setting where you can have automatic updates, where when the TV goes to standby, if there is an update, it will update the software. Often those updates improve security if they have a security issue. So it's very important to do that. Really, on any connected device, you should do that.
Right. I'm thinking about this as we move into more of these devices. We'll be updating, I guess, our refrigerators, our dishwashers. I mean, these are things that it used to be, 10, 15 years ago, a Windows update that we would have to run. It would take hours and hours and hours. And now when I have my iPhone, I have 7 updates at night. But this is a different world in terms of things that we're not used to having to run a software update.
Yeah, and it's often pretty hard too, right? I mean, computers is pretty easy. I mean, Windows will do it every month
you're
on
used
Tuesday.
To it. It's something you're used to doing.
Exactly.
You're
it's
used
a computer. It needs it.
But it's automatic, and they have a system, and Windows supports their devices forever. They just discontinued Vista a few weeks ago, and so they do a good job.
It was a walk down memory lane.
Exactly. It was still supported until recently. Phones, it's a little more hit or miss. Like some phones get supported for a long time. Some phones, they don't, right? In the Internet of Things, the TVs we saw were getting some, but we don't know how long they're supported for, right? A lot of these manufacturers, they change their software a lot, and so I'm not aware of any study about how long these devices are supported for. And these were, again, at least we saw updates. A lot of
Yes.
IoT devices, you don't see anything.
Right.
Or if there are updates, you have no idea how to get them. Like
Right.
routers is a good example.
Yeah.
Routers are very
It's a
vulnerable.
little more difficult, yeah.
But I mean, yes, I would have to think about it and work at it to update
Yeah.
the software on my router, which
Some
I
newer
probably should
routers
do.
are making it more automatic
Oh, good.
on some of the newer models, yeah.
Great. Okay. Stay right there. The conversation is just getting started. We have more from social media, so we'll check in with them. We're just going to take a real quick break here, regroup for a few minutes, then we'll continue with Maria and Justin, as we said, learn more about those smart TVs. But first, we want to help you protect your privacy throughout your life. We have some simple tips and tricks to help you do that. We're going to share those with you throughout our program tonight. And welcome back to CR Privacy Hour. You're joining us from one of our TV testing labs. This is our sound lab here in Yonkers, New York, where we're testing, where we typically test sound in here. You can maybe see behind us these special sound absorbing things so we can test the audio in TVs. We do a lot of TV testing. We'll share more with that for you in a little bit. We want to continue, though, our conversation about some vulnerabilities in smart TVs that we just reported on today. Maria Rarsich is our Director of Electronics Testing at Consumer Reports, and Justin Brookman, Director of Policy and Technology as well. Thank you both for joining us. We have had a lot of action on social media. We're going to get right back here. Laura, you've got a question from somebody, right?
Yes, I do. Alex from Facebook has a really good question. He's wondering, are these TV vulnerabilities only when someone has access to the same network as the TV, or can you get into it if you're coming from another network?
So that's an important question. We may just want to kind of walk through that because that is a big differentiator here,
Yes.
right? This idea of being on the same Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, so any kind of vulnerability or hack that you can only get to if you're on the same network is less likely to happen than one that can happen if you're outside that network. The way this one happens is, yes, the code is running on the network. So in the example that I mentioned before, you're watching your TV, somebody in your house opens an app or a computer, laptop computer, visits a site. That website or that app is running this malicious code. That code was written by somebody not in your house, not on your network, anywhere in the world. They're writing that, they put it in the app, in the website. You happen to access it from, somebody accesses it from inside your local network. Now it's running on your local network. So it is running on your local network, but it hasn't come from your local network. And therefore, you're really susceptible to anybody, anywhere.
That's what makes it a worldwide
right.
issue.
And that person outside, that hacker doesn't know you have that kind of TV. They're just putting that out there. And anybody who takes that app or visits that website, it starts running and starts affecting their TV.
No, it's a great way. Thank
Yeah.
you. Got it now. I appreciate it. Thank you for all of us out there. Kevin, you've got a question.
Yes, we got a question from Mia from Facebook. Lots of great questions. Keep them coming, folks out there. This one is, what is the biggest concern here? Is this more of an annoyance than anything else, like a hacker changing your channel? Or do you think it's manually being done or more robotic, like a program? I mean, isn't this happening on smartphones and computers all the time anyway?
Another great question, and
Yeah.
Maria, your favorite word to use this is mischief,
Is
right?
mischief. This is the hack that we showed here is mischievous. It's just causing hassle to people, and it's so it's not dangerous in the sense that it's not getting into your account, it's not taking your data or your personal information, but it's startling when you see it if it happened to you, and it's a bit creepy, as we mentioned before. The reason that we highlight it is that if the TV software is vulnerable to this, what else is it vulnerable to? And so, the way I think about this is, let's say when you get out of your car, you typically don't lock your driver door. well, that might mean you don't typically lock your passenger door either. And if somebody pointed out, hey, there's a driver door, you need to lock it. Oh, I'll lock it. But you didn't lock your passenger door. You have another problem, basically, at that point.
Yep. Got it. Okay.
And on the privacy side, I mean, they're collecting this information, they're building this history of all the stuff that you watch, and we're not entirely sure what they're doing with it. I mean, they tend to reserve really broad rights to do stuff in their privacy policy. They usually mention they want to do targeted ads, right? And that's something we've seen in other environments. They want to do it for measurement. They want to get a sense of who's watching what shows, kind of do what Nielsen traditionally has done, but maybe with less explicit permission. But they're building up these stories about you, and some people just might decide, I don't want them to do this for me. So that's why we're trying to highlight, how you can control it if you want to.
And I think that's kind of how you feel personally, right? I mean, I don't. Paranoid might be a strong word, but I know you take this very, very seriously. You've worked in the industry for a long time. You know the vulnerabilities that are out there. You don't own a smart TV. You kind of have a bit of a workaround that you use at home?
Yeah, so I have like an older TV. I use a Blu-ray player to act as my smart TV.
Is that more secure?
No, it's probably less secure actually. Now that you mention it, it's older. It's so old that it was built before they were really doing this automated content recognition. Before they were doing it for the privacy reasons. Now it is older, and so it may be more vulnerable to these sorts of hacks.
You may not be getting software updates so much anymore.
I have not gotten a software update in a very long time. But I feel more confident on the privacy side. Yeah, and so I feel that way a little more secure that they're not watching what I'm watching.
Okay, so and when we talk about them watching what we're watching, is that for them to make some money from us? And as a consumer, do I kind of have any say in that? Do I get a cut of that? Can I say I would like my information shared with these folks, but not these folks?
You don't have a lot of control. I mean, you can in the beginning turn the controls on or off, but otherwise they're going to be collecting the information about you, and you might find it offensive. You spend $1,000 on a TV. It should be working for you, not having a dossier collected about you and money made in the background. As far as there's not a way for them to give you a cut of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's also, there are certain things you can set off, like this ACR, the automatic content recognition, where they won't see that. But there are certain things that you have to approve the privacy policy, and there are certain things that they say they can collect on you just by virtue of accepting the privacy policy. And all of the smart TVs we saw have a privacy policy that if you want to use it as a smart TV, you have to accept.
I think the frustrating part as a consumer living in the world that we live in is that we are kind of bombarded with privacy policies that are written by, I assume, some of the best corporate lawyers in America. Yeah. And yet it's very difficult to sort of understand what is important in that, right? What should I be looking for that might be a red flag that I might want to opt out of? Is there any guidance when I'm going through screen after screen after screen?
I mean, that's kind of the role that we're trying to play at Consumer Reports. I don't think it's fair to ask consumers to read all the privacy policies. I mean, you couldn't possibly read the privacy policy of every website you go to. There have been academic studies that would take like years of your life. And it's just not fair to expect that. Even if you did, and I do read privacy policies for a living, I don't know what they mean. We talk about it like they reserve the rights to work with business partners. I mean, what exactly does that mean? Right. So which is why we tried to get the TVs in the lab, watch what they're doing, so we can say empirically this is what's happening. Compare the policies and like the consent flows, because they are different. Some of them we're doing a better job, I think, some than others. And so we can differentiate and to tell people if you don't like this, what are the ways to do it, which is why we put it into the website.
Right.
Great. Okay. Again, a lot of activity out there online. We're hearing from our social friends, which is great. The hashtag CR Privacy Hour. Laura, I think you're hearing from somebody, right?
Yes. Joe on Facebook says that we might be talking him out of a smart TV. He wants to know how can the average consumer stay ahead of the game?
Well, it's a great question, and Maria, or either of you, but I know Maria, we talked leading up to this that it's really not easy to buy a good quality non-smart TV today, right? This is kind of where we are today, right?
Right. The top of the line TVs tend to be smart TVs, and if you go and look at our ratings and you want this great, picture quality TV, it's probably going to be a smart TV. So you need to decide whether you want a smart TV or not. Now, you can use all of these TVs as non-smart TVs. You don't have to hook them up to the internet. You don't have to hook them up to Wi-Fi. And you could use it like that with just through the HDMI inputs or through the antenna, anything like that. But it's kind of cool to have a smart TV. And if you want a smart TV, as I said, you have to accept the privacy policy, but you can turn other things off. You can do things like some of them ask you for your zip code. And the reason they ask you for your zip code is to give you the channel guide for your area. Well, if you give it a zip code 2 towns over, you're going to get the same channel guide. You don't necessarily have to give it your zip code if you don't want it.
It's a great tip.
So things like that you could do to help maximize your privacy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. There's totally a lot of benefits to it. I mean, there are a lot of devices that connect to the internet. I'm like, I don't know that's really necessary. I think smart TV, they make a really compelling use case.
Right.
So I think the best advice is to update your software, whenever
Always,
you can,
yeah.
and that'll help with the security side. On the privacy side, again, there are some legal protections here that they're aware of. So there are controls. You might have to dig a little bit for them. We have some information on our site. And if you can't find them, just call them.
It's a great tip, though. I mean, you're under sort of no obligation to enter the truth in this, right? You can put a different birth date in, a different zip code, a different address.
Absolutely.
Anything, right? And then that
helps
could go a long way.
protect your privacy a little
Great.
bit. Yeah.
Okay. We have another great question from our social central table. Kevin.
Yes,
What do you have?
Elliot. Folks, nice to see you here. We have a really good.
You're looking at their backs, Kevin.
No, I see him over there. Yeah, we got a really interesting question from Scott on Facebook. One that I've been wondering about, and a lot of folks in my network actually ask about is there an end user license agreement bill of rights that has been or could be created for tech devices, especially TVs and the similar? Something that provides some protection for consumers, and it's written in plain, brief English that we can totally understand. We're asked all the time to sign these big, protracted licenses, and we don't even honestly know what we're getting ourselves into. So
does the consumer have any kind of standardization maybe, or any rights once you agree to one of those long documents?
Yeah, so I've worked on this. I've tried to get industry to agree to honor signals. I mean, you might remember about 5-6 years ago, in browsers they had this do not track control. And I was trying to negotiate all the advertising companies. Like, if you get this signal, if the consumer goes and turns on do not track, could you knock it off? Could you not actually track? Unfortunately, we don't have really strong privacy law in the United States. So the incentives for companies to actually do that are pretty weak. And so after several years of negotiation, there have been several other similar things where you try to get them, can you have like a simple policy? Can I have simple controls? There just are not enough incentives under the law for them to actually offer those to people. Europe recently passed a law called the GDPR. It'll go into effect in May. That's actually going to have be really strong, and have really strong penalties. It'll be really interesting to see how that gets played out, whether things change over there, and if they do, whether then things can change here as well.
It's a great point. And again, as more of these devices in our homes become connected, and we have more of these policies that we have to sign off on before we turn on a light bulb or a stove or a TV, maybe that will kind of move the tide here as well. Great. Okay. Wow, there's so much activity on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Laura, we'll go back to you. What do you have?
Back to me. Megan would like to know, will the new CR digital standard be used to test other connected home appliances?
All right, so before we get to the direct answer to that question, can you give me like a 30-second, we're at a cocktail party, what the heck is the CR digital standard answer? Either one of you can fight for it.
Sure. So you were here when it was written, but the digital standard is so CR has traditionally tested TVs for like brightness and sound and all user interface and stuff like that. But there are increasingly a lot of other values that people are concerned about: privacy, security, repairability for phones, interoperability. Can your TV talk to your router and your hub? Ownership. Can someone just brick it and turn it off? So there's a lot of things in the modern digital age that are different. We worked with a few partners. There's an open source document called the Digital Standard, which kind of enunciates the best practices around here, like don't collect data you don't need, update your software, encrypt it. So it's 40 or so principles in 5 or 6 categories, and that we're going to use start evaluating products based on these kind of newer criteria.
Right. So it sounds like the answer is yes. The digital standard would cover that by the very nature that it's a connected device.
Yes, and we will be looking at other kinds of connected devices, appliances, anything else that's connected to the internet. It's a new type of product these days.
Got a few things in the hopper.
Yeah.
Awesome, great. Fascinating conversation, guys. We're going to keep it going online, as you know, but thank you for being here for this part of our event tonight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you
I know you
us.
both worked extraordinarily hard on this. I don't know that Maria's been home in several days. Reintroduce yourself to your family.
I will.
We'll call them and let them know that you'll be home. So thank you guys so
thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Well, as we've been talking about, connected stuff is everywhere in our lives. So we're going to take a quick break for a minute or two and regroup here. When we come back, we'll talk about the connected car, that computer on 4 wheels. How secure is that connection? We've got some insight into that. But first, we are in one of our TV testing labs here. I mentioned that this one tests sound. Well, we look at a whole lot more Our friend Alex Willen here at Consumer Reports gives us an inside look at how we test hundreds of TVs every year.
So we're here in Yonkers, New York at Consumer Reports National Testing Headquarters, where we have more than 60 labs. 3 of them are dedicated to testing televisions. I'm going to show you one of them now. So this is one of the spots, and we do a whole wide range of testing, whether we're listening to the sound quality or judging the ease of use. We're also looking at viewing quality, and one of the tests that we do is motion blur. Now, if you're watching the Olympics, and let's say it's like Super G or speed skating, you don't want that motion blur to ruin your experience. So we have this test pattern here where we can compare televisions to see how well they do. This OLED here doesn't smear the text on the bottom, but looking at the LCD on the far side, it's kind of hard to read that detail as it's moving past. So when it comes to resolution, HD TVs or UHD 4K TVs, they have the ability of producing some of the highest quality. But just because they claim high quality doesn't mean they can always produce it. So we have this image here, which really helps us identify how well a television can produce high enough resolution. This OLED TV, where it starts off with a little bit lower of detail, as we get over and across to these number 10, right here, it can really reproduce these fine marks. A lower quality television, not so much. So starting here, we have those wide bands that can reproduce those, but as we get into like the 7 and 8 and 9, it just kind of starts to blur and really can't pick out some like those finer details. So viewing angle, it's another important factor for which we test. Now, if you're in the center watching the television straight on, that's what we call the sweet spot. But if you have a large group of people that are watching the television, if they're off to the side, then they don't get as good of a quality of image as they may like. You have these OLEDs, which are a newer technology. And as you can see from the side, even though you're moving, it still holds this color depth and the black level and the contrast, where, come on, let's check out this LCD. You know, when you're in the sweet spot, the image might be a little bit better, but move to the side, and you'll see like that loss of color or some desaturation. So those watching on the sides may not get the same quality that you are sitting in the front. These are just a few of the many tests that we run here at Consumer Reports on televisions to help you determine which is the best one to buy. Back to you, Elliot.
All right, Alex, a great guy and a great tour guide here at Consumer Reports, and we thank our folks here in the TV labs for letting us invade their space. We've been setting up for the past couple days, and we're using it tonight to hopefully bring you a really informative hour. So thank you to all of them. We've had some questions too about whether or not we're going to be posting some tips. Yes, you will be seeing some tips and some of our previous articles relating to the privacy topics. Just check the stream and you'll be able to find that there. You can also join our Facebook Digital Privacy Group. It's a community that we have exclusively for this. The conversation will go on beyond this live event tonight. So just do a search for CR Digital Privacy and you'll find lots of community resources there as well. All right, as we continue on, we want to shift gears just a bit and talk about connectivity and privacy in cars. Keyless entry, a lot of us have that. Infotainment systems, more of us have that. And self-driving cars are perhaps not too far off. We're seeing this in every price point in cars these days. Technology rapidly moving, but so have some vulnerabilities in cars. At our Auto Test Center, we brought together some students and some auto tech experts to take a look at the possibilities of hacking into cars.
Is my car, like my phone, telling my location all the time? And who's it telling it to?
Can your car be hacked? We're taking a look at car security. We've actually taken some of the brightest in the nation, some students from the best universities, and we're trying to look at electronic vulnerabilities. Can they break into the computers in your car?
We're very excited. We're here at Consumer Reports track in Connecticut, and we have the incredible opportunity to really explore unforeseen consequences as cars have become more computerized.
Honda Link itself is having connectivity issues.
We're at yellow and there's absolutely no audible warnings of any sort.
Right now it's almost the Wild West in terms of cars because there's so many different technologies added to cars every day. One car is different from another car, and that's why we've actually chose different vehicles here that have different types of technologies, and we're taking a look at those each individually.
If I was a malicious hacker, I could basically say, no, 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 you're not making a right turn, you're gonna make a left turn.
We're looking at the key fob. We're currently working on blocking the signal and messing with the code that this is trying to send. The fact is that a lot of us had no experience with this, and yet we've managed to mess up your key fob already.
If you can get in between a device and impersonate one of the parties, then you can do a man-in-the-middle attack what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the car, it's going to connect to my computer, and then it's going to go to the internet.
Instead of relaying it to the wider internet, you merely respond on Google's behalf and serve whatever you like. If you do it correctly, the car thanks your Google.
And that's why it's really important to have this kind of event. It shores up Consumer Reports with new ways of thinking about these cars, and in a policy way, where are the really hot spots around the consumer issues.
There are a lot of computers in a car, even if all you see is the dashboard display.
We're trying to prove that things that people take for granted and think might be very safe can sometimes very easily be manipulated and disabled.
The new technologies that we're seeing on cars, make no mistake, some of them are actually adding functionality and they're adding safety too. But as the technology is added to the cars, the manufacturers, they have to be responsible about this and really consider all the possibilities. So we support the technology, we're just making sure that all the technology is added in a responsible way.
Added in a responsible way. We will talk more about that now. Our friend Jen Stockberger has left the garage at the Auto Test Center and joined us here in Yonkers in the TV Test Lab. She is the Director of Operations at our Auto Test Center in Connecticut. Thanks for coming down. Appreciate you being here today, Jen. So let's talk first. What can our cars tell car makers about us? What should we be concerned about in talking about the connected car?
Right, so there's really kind of, with cars, there's two levels. One is this hackability. So when you talked about the TVs, and that really is an invasion of your privacy. And those students were able to mess with some of the signals in the cars when they were at the track, including like the key fob. And that's, if you search, car hacks online, you do see most prominently the ability to mess with the key fobs and gain entry to your car. And if they have push buttons, start them. And that's done by amplifying the signal from the key fob in your home all the way out to your driveway. So there are some practical tips there. If you have a car that's outside and visible and not in a garage, think about what you leave in it. But you buy these things called RFID sleeves or Faraday sleeves that block that radio frequency from the key fob from being amplified. So there's a practical tip there.
But again, that's kind of, I don't want to call it a nuisance thing. Nobody would want their car broken into. Nobody would want their car remotely started. But just to fast forward to what people might be thinking about, we're not talking about someone necessarily coming in and taking over the car, or are we thinking that potentially that might be a vulnerability?
So, and again, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that scary, the fear factor where the car goes way up because you're hurtling down the highway in 2,000 pounds of steel. Of what if someone can physically stop my car from moving? And we haven't seen a prominence of that happening, that malicious, really dangerous type of activity.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some of the hackers have gotten close, but their successes, they've actually shared in some instances with automakers, and they've been able to correct the vulnerabilities and close those gaps. So we haven't seen that, which is very fortunate.
And what about those other connected things in cars that are, for lack of a better word, kind of built in like an OnStar system, right? So we have the little SOS button or the help button. That is obviously also connecting our car to something, right?
Right, so that's the other side of the coin, and that's the information that they can see about you, where you're going, how fast you're driving, who you're calling, and it goes in layers. So most cars today have Bluetooth. You're connecting your phone via Bluetooth, same connections that they're getting out of your phone. Now we have Wi-Fi hotspots. The car itself becomes a Wi-Fi hotspot. And those are typically protected with passwords. We recommend that people change those passwords from the manufacturer ones when they get in there. And then ultimately, these telematic systems like OnStar or Lexus Enform or BMW Assist that have real convenience and safety benefits. And that's where this weighing of
it's the trade-off, right?
It's the trade-off.
And I know you sort of have been weighing this recently. You were shopping for a car for your daughter,
right? That's a great example. You just talked about on the TVs. Do you want a good TV or do you want all your privacy? We just leased, I have an 18-year-old driver, needless to say, she's 18. Her phone is literally grafted to her hip. But we got her a new car. We leased a new car because that's what's a way to afford it, to get her connectivity like Apple CarPlay or Bluetooth, as well as some advanced safety features. For us, having her operate the phone, which we assumed she was going to do anyway, connected to the car, was safer in our minds than the risk of the privacy. So that's a conscious choice.
The trade-off, and you know all the risks and consequences of that, and you weighed those
and
carefully.
We weighed those and said, we're probably not learning much more than they were through her phone anyway. that was a benefit for us.
Okay, great. We want to bring in again our social media crowd out
Okay,
there. They're joining us with some questions.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I think you have one from somebody, right?
Yes, Elliot, we have one here. First of all, I just want to say thanks, shout out to the community. It's great. We're seeing lots of interesting questions and quite engaging. They're actually chatting amongst themselves and talking amongst themselves, so very active out there. Also, C from YouTube says, I like watching Consumer Reports this way. Thank you so much, C. And then the question is, what is the likelihood of my car being hacked?
That's interesting. Do we have any idea of likelihood, right? We can't really predict what these hackers are doing, or can we? Do we have any insight?
So we haven't seen it. It hasn't been like an epidemic of this happening. So our hope is that manufacturers are employing hackers, if that makes any sense, that they're looking for the vulnerabilities long before the consumers are seeing these cars and trying to close those gaps. The other nice thing is this connectivity that is the risk is also the answer, because when they're finding them, because they're connected, you know, Maria and Justin talked about the updates on it, they can update them quickly and close those loopholes. So we haven't seen, can't answer that question directly because we haven't seen that really happening in the real world.
And you talked about the safety, and we can wrap up with this because I think this is a glimmer of hope for safety and connectivity. The future of this idea of the connected car and the connected stuff around us could make driving a lot safer, right?
Yeah, we're not done yet. So the first touch on that is we are seeing over-the-air updates. I mean, there's a couple of models. You know, you have your Teslas and some Volvo models. They're much like they describe the TVs. They're getting over-the-air updates. And we're not talking about just the Google Maps or the infotainment system. They're getting updates to the functionality of the car, added safety features that they didn't have. So that's working. But again, that connectivity is a two-way conversation. They can see what your car is doing at that point. So we have to know, we ask a lot about transparency, that they let the consumers know what they're collecting and what they're doing with it. And then ultimately, the conversations are around things like vehicle-to-vehicle communication, called V2V, or vehicle-to-infrastructure, which means your vehicle's talking to the world around it. And you can imagine, say you're driving on the road and 3 cars ahead of you, there's a patch of ice, the car skids, its stability control comes on, and without you even being known, the car tells you 4 cars back that, hey, watch out, you might want to slow down, there's ice ahead. So you can imagine this safety benefit, not just convenience, but real hard safety that comes along with some of this.
Interesting times, I'm sure, for you guys at the track too, because you have to kind of figure out how to test all of this, how to work all of this in, right?
Yeah, the glory is we are testing about 50 new cars each year, so we're seeing the cutting edge and as these things are introduced.
That's great. Jen, thank you so much. Really great conversation.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip back in whatever kind of car you're driving back to the track. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
A connected one, I'm
sure. A
sure.
connected one, yes. Very good. Connect with us. Thank you so much. Well, we know so many kids, right, are addicted to smartphones and tablets. You can't get it out of their hands, even if they're super, super young. Well, toy makers, no surprise here, are trying to cash in on that connected craze. They know all about it. The question, though, how safe and secure are the toys that our kids are playing with? We'll take a look at that. Of course, don't forget our online conversation, #CRPrivacyHour. But first, this is a really interesting idea. Ever need that email address maybe for just one use? You signed up for something but then want to ditch it? There's actually a fairly simple way to do it. All right, we take a quick break. We come back with a new person and toys. This is terrific. Let me introduce who's here. Bree Fowler. She's an electronics editor here at Consumer Reports, specializing in cybersecurity and privacy. Great topics here tonight. She's also brought along some toys because she's also covered the toy industry. She's a mother of 2, so she brings all this expertise to talk about this rapidly evolving world of connected toys. So thanks for coming, first of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Elliot.
And I don't mean to start this in a really overly simplistic way, but toys aren't what they used to be. You cover, like, you have seen these trends, and if you can add the word connected or Wi-Fi enabled, that's a marketing tool right now, right?
Right. I mean, a few years ago, the toy companies realized that they were losing sales because kids would rather play with their iPad or their parents' smartphone. And so basically they've looked to tech and adding things like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections to add tech to what used to be pretty traditional toys.
Yeah, because you're looking at these things, they look very traditional. I mean, Elmo, like there can't possibly, like that's the red thing that we all loved, right? Or grew up
And
with.
Barbie's been around for 50 years.
And Barbie's been a long time. So we'll kind of go through these, and we'll get some questions again from our social side. So the Elmo one maybe is on an end of less connectivity. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, this Elmo, which came out a couple years ago, has a Bluetooth connection and connects to an app. And what the app does is it lets you customize it for your child.
Elmo is very happy to see you.
Well, thank you, Elmo.
And,
no, if he was giving me compliments, why would you turn them off?
That's okay.
All right, so the parent downloads the app to the phone.
Right, and you can add things like your kid's favorite animals, their, kind of their name and their gender, and just basic information. And most of that information is stored on the app or on the device. There's not a whole lot going to the cloud, and what is clearly spelled out in the company's privacy policy.
And you and I were talking before about the privacy policy for toys, and unlike some of these other ones that we've talked about tonight, in most cases you say that toy makers actually make them relatively easy to understand. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, they're under, there are certain legal things that they have to abide by. There's a federal law called COPPA, or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, that protects the information of kids under the age of 13 and requires that parents both be informed of information that's being collected and give their express consent before it happens.
Okay, good information there. So then we want to go in the middle here, the
Right.
bear that looks like a kind of an ordinary teddy bear, stuffed animal, right?
This is Cloud Pets.
Cloud Pets.
About a year ago, a researcher realized that the information being collected by this toy wasn't secure, and that the information of the kids and the parents that were using it was being exposed.
So this is one of those toys where you could customize a message for the child and then the bear plays it back.
Right. What you would do, a parent would use the app to record a message if they're away on business or something like that. The message then goes from the app to the bear. The kid can press the button and play the message. And
maybe the fact that it's not working is a good thing, because this is one of those leaky ones, right, where the ethical hackers found something wrong with it?
Right. They realized that the information on the servers wasn't secured enough. And this is an example of something that, this retails for about $20. And at that kind of price point, you're just not going to get the security baked in that you would with hardcore tech like a home security system or a thermostat.
And this is a great point that you've made over and over, because we're buying toys, right? We're not, as you say, buying like hardcore tech. The price point isn't that high.
Mm-hmm.
The toy might only be used for a short amount of time. And parents and maybe manufacturers, they're just not thinking of building them the way other tech that you cover builds in those privacy protections. Is that a fair statement?
My kids, they may play with something for 5 minutes and then just toss it away. And, kids, these are techie toys, not tech. They're disposable. Barbie retails for about $40. She has a Wi-Fi connection. She looks just like a normal Barbie doll.
Now, why does Barbie need a Wi-Fi connection? What does that make? What does that do to Barbie?
It has some kind of Alexa, Google Home type qualities where you can press the belt buckle and talk to Barbie, and Barbie talks to you. But, everything that you say while you're holding down this button is recorded and sent to the cloud. And, it also has a very lengthy but easy to understand privacy policy that parents can read and decide, if this is something they really want their kids playing with.
Okay, I want to talk to you more about Barbie in just a minute, but I also want to make sure that we bring in our social media participants at home, because we have a lot of questions, as you might imagine, around these toys. Laura, you have some that we want to start with you?
Oh, yeah. All right, Elliot. So a lot of our commenters are saying actually these talking toys are super annoying. Maybe we don't want them at all. But, if you do decide to get your kids connected toys, how do you protect their privacy while letting them use the toy?
Do you have any guide? Because you are a parent, so I'm assuming that you kind of weigh this. Is it just, in your household, is it we just don't have them, or do you use them smartly? What do you tell parents?
My kids have kind of fallen as a result of my career, and they play with pretty much everything, and they are my little beta testers. So, they've been pretty much exposed to all of this. But, my rule of thumb when I'm buying gifts for a birthday party, I don't buy anything that requires batteries, because yes, even the toys that don't have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, they are really annoying because they make noise and have lights, and, you just don't really
But
need
as a
that.
little boy, like those were the toys that I remember loving, like like the electronic games.
Right.
And this was in the early '80s, right? But these things made noises, and I mean, but there was no Wi-Fi, obviously.
No,
but
I
is
mean-
it hard to say no to a kid, or do you find that kids maybe don't even necessarily want or use these features?
Well, you know, kids, yeah, Elmo, my son, he has this Elmo. He's 3 years old, and Elmo mainly gets dragged around as something to cuddle with.
As a non-connected, he's
Right.
not using
I mean,
those
he's
features.
not asking me to turn on Elmo, but at the same time, you know, he loves to play with my smartphone. He loves to watch stuff on YouTube. You know, the kids, that is a very hard thing to say no to sometimes.
Okay, interesting. All right, let's head over to Social Central again. Kevin, what do we have from you?
Yeah, Elliot, Bree, we got a question from Carrie on Facebook about creepy the word here coming from Facebook and from social is creepy. Creepy baby monitor hacking. Are those baby monitors safe?
Well, I mean, it used to be that the baby monitor was basically the white hat hacker, the ethical hacker's favorite thing to hack. I mean, they're readily available, there's lots on the market, and they are very easy to break into. You know, there are overseas websites where you can see feeds from all these baby monitors across the country, and yeah, it's very, very creepy and disturbing for parents.
And you mentioned before an important distinction is that you have to think about privacy, what are they collecting, but then the second part of that is the security part, right? From the toy, from the monitor to wherever that is going.
Right.
And that is where a lot of the problem comes in, I guess, right? Where that server is not as safe as it should be.
Right. If you look at VTech, a few years ago, they were hacked. They make smartwatches and tablets and countless other connected toys, and their apps and their website was collecting information from parents and kids that included names and ages and parent email addresses.
And they were fined for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about millions of people around the world, and they got hacked.
And when you talk to the manufacturers about these products, what do they tell you when you bring up the potential vulnerabilities that you might find?
You know, they just like any companies say it's a work in progress, and that, you know, security is a top priority, and that they care about kids, obviously, and that, you know, it's something that they're working to address.
Great, okay. Another question from our Social Central team. Laura, what do you have?
Yeah, we have a question from YouTube. You know, we've talked about hackers a lot in all of these segments, and what's a good hacker? What's a bad hacker? Why would you hope that maybe, why would a manufacturer hire a hacker?
It's a great question, right? Why would we want someone to break into our systems?
Well, I mean, just think about how many patches you've gotten, how many security updates you've gotten for your smartphone. I mean, that comes because people have found problems in software. It happens all the time. Software is by nature a work in progress, and whether you're talking about an expensive Tesla or a cheap toy, you know, there are freelance hackers around the world that they make money off of what are called bug bounties. And they also, you know, there's a lot of academic researchers who do the same thing. They look for problems, they disclose them to the companies before publicizing them, and those problems get fixed so that the black hat hackers, or, you know, the ones that are out to steal your information or your money or your social security number, don't find it first.
But hopefully when the companies are aware of this, they make the corrected patches, and
Right.
we can all enjoy safer products because of that, right?
And most, you know, reputable companies will make a point of doing that.
Great, okay. Bree Fowler, who covers security and privacy and connected toys. Thanks for bringing your toy chest with you tonight. We appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, protecting your privacy really doesn't have to be so tricky. As you've seen, we're trying to give you some easy tips to do that. Here are some more. All right, one of the guys responsible for bringing those tips is the guy that edited this piece, 66 Ways to Protect Your Privacy. It was a Consumer Reports article not too long ago. Jerry Balinson, our lead electronics editor, joins us now. Jerry, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, good to be here.
66 tips, a little overwhelming. We won't get to all of them tonight, so we've kind of boiled down some of your favorites. Let's start at home, kind of personal to you, I guess, than the most simple thing perhaps for a lot of people. We have passwords, we have PINs, in everything in our lives, right? So what should we be thinking about when creating those?
Well, first, every device that you take out of the house should have a screen lock on it, have a PIN, have a password. That's the entry to your email, Facebook, changing the passwords for your bank accounts. So everything needs a password. There are tons of really bad passwords and PINs out there. There was research a few years ago that something like 20% of all PINs are 0000 or 1111.
Right?
So just mix it up and do a good PIN. Same with password. Obviously, password 1 is a bad password.
I gave that up yesterday. Just for you. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. I'm glad. Yeah, we have
password
to
2 now.
make progress. The more letters and characters you have, the better, obviously, because if someone is trying to go through with a computer and guess every single password, the more characters you have, it's an exponential
It's tougher,
thing.
right?
Yeah, by a factor of almost 100 every time you add one character. So.
And then what is this thing, we referenced it earlier in one of the videos here, but people might not know, two-factor authentication. Maybe they heard of it, maybe they never heard of it, but give me like a real simple explanation for what it is and why I might want it.
Yeah, first, it's one of the things that almost every security expert will bring up as one of the first things to do. Two-factor authentication sounds complex. It's really just an added layer of security. So if you go to a new computer that you haven't used before with a certain account, you type your password in, instead of getting right into the account, you'll get a text message with a code that you have to enter at that one moment.
My bank does that. Even Google does that sometimes,
Sure,
right?
Google does that, Facebook does that, your bank will do it. And what it means is, you have something the password, but that gets stolen in a data breach or something, and something you have, which typically is your phone. So you have to have both those together, and it really makes your accounts much safer.
Yeah, great. Okay, sounds good. We got some questions from social media. Stay there. You're a man with the answers, and we like that. Kevin, we'll start with you. What do you have?
Hey, thanks, Elliot. Jerry, speaking of two-factor identification, a question came in from Twitter saying two-factor identification requires a cell phone, right? I don't have or want one, so where does that leave this guy?
But this person does not have a cell phone?
That's right.
Wow, get his information. We'll have him on for a future show, right? Wow, okay, so the only remaining person without a cell phone.
That makes it tricky.
Yeah, go ahead,
a little
Jerry.
bit tricky. So I said before, you need to know something, your password, and you have to have something, but typically your phone. But there are also physical keys. You can get a security key, like a fob that you would plug into a USB drive. There are security keys that work with Google and Facebook and other companies. So that is probably the best other scenario.
Alternative,
and it's actually even more secure in a way. So it's a good alternative. But most people obviously are using a smartphone for this.
Okay, let's take one more question from Social Central. Laura, what do you have?
Yes, thanks, Elliot. I have Scott on Facebook. He's wondering if we've considered adding privacy ratings of products similar to our performance ratings for all the connected devices, from Barbies to BMWs.
It's a great question, and Jerry, I think the word is like we're thinking about it and working on it, right?
Sure, absolutely, that's the vision. It takes a lot of effort. We test thousands of 8,000 or so products every year. And getting to that point is going to take a little while, but that is a goal. The digital standard was being discussed earlier, so that's a kind of an intellectual framework that will let us figure out how to start to develop actual tests. The TV testing program that we've done isn't applied to all TVs, but it could be in the future. So we 100% agree with that comment. And we're working towards getting there.
Great. I want to get to one more of your tips here. You talk about family privacy at home, and when we were talking before this, I thought it was a really interesting thing with kids and ID theft. We just talked about connected toys, right?
Yeah.
So what should parents be thinking about for kids at certain ages when it comes to privacy and checking their identity to see if something might have happened?
Yeah, so this is really confusing to people, but you can definitely have ID theft if you're a kid. In fact, it happens, one study found it happened more than 50 times as many times to minors as to adults. Kids are really attractive targets because it could be years before fraud is discovered, right? Because they're not getting credit card bills, they're not applying for loans, they wouldn't hear that they had bad credit. So one thing you can do is actually freeze your kid's credit. A lot of states will allow you to do that. If you have a daughter or son who's got to the age of 15 or 16, doing a credit check, go out to the credit reporting agencies just like you might as an adult and see if they have a credit report, and if they do, take a look at it.
It's a great idea, right? Because if they have one, you should be worried.
Right, they shouldn't have one. If they have one, get it, see what's on there. And there could be other warning signs too, but this is really important. I mean, if somebody's taking out a credit card in their name, this can affect college loans, car loans.
Exactly.
It could take years to
and 15
clean
or
up.
16 would be like that kind of that right age to begin the process of figuring out.
It kind of gives you enough time to get things cleaned up.
Okay, great tips, Jerry. Thank you so much. As we said, there are 66 of them. We'll link to the article in our social stream so people can find them and hopefully make some use some of your recommendations in their own life. Thank you so much for being here.
Great.
And thank you for joining us. This has just been a great night. Our first attempt at this CR Privacy Hour. You're joining us and you had some amazing comments and questions. The great part is, even though we're ending our live event, this conversation will continue online. So please keep it going. Again, search CR Digital Privacy on Facebook. We have a separate community group there. We've established it. We'll be with you tonight. You'll be with each other, and we'll keep monitoring it in the days and weeks ahead, because as you've heard tonight, this issue is obviously not going away. Thank you so much for joining us from Consumer Reports in New York.